What's happening in net? JGamer Dude here, and leading up to the 25th anniversary of Yu-Gi-Oh! With the release of the 25th anniversary packs, boxes, whatever you want to call them, I've been looking at older cards, older packs, and kind of just writing down and mentioning some of the most notable cards in each of the packs. And so this time around, I'm going to be looking at Dark Crisis, which is much further down the line after Pharaoh's Servant, which was the last one that I did. So let's just jump into it and actually just look at the actual 5 cards that I picked out as the 5 most notable cards in the entire pack itself. Starting off with Skill Drain, which is easily one of the most annoying yet still at the same time one of the best floodgates that are still in Yu-Gi-Oh! So Skill Drain is a continuous trap card, which effect reads as such. Activate this card by paying 1,000 life points, negate the effect of all face-up monsters while they're face-up on the field. Their effects can still be activated. So, simply put, as long as a monster is on the field, it can't activate its effect. It doesn't negate the effect, it just, when you try to activate the effect, nothing will happen. Because it negates the activation upon activation. So it's weird. It's a weird description, but the fact of the matter is, it kind of fools your opponent into thinking, okay, I've got this really cool monster, I'm going to activate this effect, and then ultimately, when they try to activate it, boom, nothing happens because they've just been denied due to Skill Drain's effect. And Skill Drain is mostly used in very trap-heavy decks, and more specifically with Eldritch, which is a card that I used a lot in my Eldritch deck. I think it's either limited or semi-limited now in Master Duel, but yeah, Skill Drain, very useful, a brilliant card, but frustrating to deal with if you're on the receiving end of its effects. But keeping on the level of Skill Drain and kind of adding something new to the table, we have Sakuretsu Armor. Now, Sakuretsu Armor is a normal trap card with the effect, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, target the attacking monster, destroy that target. 1-for-1 destruction, and one that was actually quite prevalent during the 5Ds era. And of course, when you think of cards like Sakuretsu Armor, you kind of think about stuff like Scrap Iron Scarecrow and stuff like that. So it was during that era that, these cards came out in, specifically around 2007. So 1-for-1 destruction, as usual, and was still used quite a bit. I mean, again, during this time, traps were still something that was prevalent throughout all of Yu-Gi-Oh! And still used in the competitive space as well during that time. Unfortunately, it sucks that traps have fallen so much out of favor because of how slow they are, that you need to set them in order to use them, sure enough, and the only way that you can use them now is if you can activate it from your hand, like an Infinite Impermanence or a Red Reboot as such. Now, moving on from that into more so alternative win conditions is where the next couple of cards end up coming in. We have Exodia Necross. So Exodia Necross is a level 4 dark attribute spellcaster type effect monster. With the text reading as such, it can't be normal summoned or set, and it can only be special summoned with contract with Exodia, and cannot be special summoned by any other way. It can't be destroyed by battle or spell or trap card effects. Once per turn during your standby phase, this card gains 500 attack. Destroy this card unless all 5... Wait, what? Hold on. Yeah, during your standby phase, this card gains 500 attack. Destroy this card unless all 5 of these cards are in your graveyard, which is Exodia the Forbidden One, right arm, right leg, left leg. So, Exodia Necross was just like a terrible retrain, but it's worth talking about because I think it's the first retrain of Exodia, and I mean Exodia in itself is one of the most famous monsters in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Anyways. Specifically with Exodia's instant, win condition of having all of the pieces in your hand. But if you lose one of the pieces, you're only limited to one copy per piece, in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! And so if you were to lose any of the pieces, the next best option would be to go down the path of Exodia Necross. But unfortunately, in order to summon such a terrible card, you need to have a named card in your hand, specifically Contract with Exodia. So yeah, all said and done, it has a terrible summoning condition that is dependent upon failure, so it kind of really, like, putting it in your deck is literally putting in a couple of bricks, specifically with Exodia Necross and Contract with Exodia, and so it just kind of falls apart. You're pretty much, if you put this card in your deck, you're kind of expecting some level of failure, but I'm only putting it in here because of it to retrain with Exodia, but also just how much more of a terrible card it is compared to its original sort of form. But on that same note, and I suppose that's trying to keep in with the whole alternative win condition, we have Final Countdown, which is equal parts terrible card as Exodia Necross, but you know what, we'll just kind of stick with it. Final Countdown is a normal spell card. You pay 2,000 life points. After 20 turns, you win the duel. And it counts the turn in which the spell card was played. So at the end of the day, it's not like Destiny board where you're, able to put the cards down and they all need to be on the field in order for, the effect to resolve. Final Countdown is like, you slap it on, it goes to the graveyard, and now there's no way of being able to prevent it from happening. So Final Countdown, as terrible as the card it is, can be considered somewhat viable at times, only if you've got an extremely heavy stall deck. And if you can stall real hard, that'll be very beneficial, but at the end of the day, 20 turns is way too damn long for an alternative win condition, more specifically with Final Countdown. And I feel like I'm going to be making a video specifically on the many alternative win conditions, because it's such an interesting concept in Yu-Gi-Oh! And so that's why I can't help but bring up Final Countdown as one such example of a notable card in a particular pack. And I mean, notable doesn't necessarily mean it's a good card, especially with Exodia Necross being like, it sticks out like a sore thumb for a number of different reasons, whether it be it having a terrible summoning condition, a terrible effect, or just something else failing to kind of meet that particular to meet a particular end. And with the case of Final Countdown, it's terrible for the fact that you need to wait 20 turns in order to win the duel. The 2,000 life point cost can be considered absolutely nothing right now, but back in the day, it was quite a bit. And I think when we talk about notable cards and how good they are and all that stuff, I feel like we can't not also deny banned cards being specifically notable in a particular pack, and that's why the fifth and final card that I picked, being notable enough, is Butterfly Dagger Elma. So Butterfly Dagger Elma is an equipped spell card which has the following effect: that the equipped monster gains 300 attack. When this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard while equipped, you can return this card to the hand. And the reason why this card is banned is because of that final part, that final sentence, that you can return this card into your hand when it's destroyed. And you might think, wow, that seems okay, like it doesn't seem particularly notable. But the thing about it is, if you were to combine the activation of Elma with, say, something that involves a lot of magic counters, pretty much Elma's ability to be constantly be reusable no matter what is where it becomes very dangerous. So say you've got a Gearfried the Iron Knight, which has the effect where if it's equipped with an equipped spell, destroy the equipped spell. So you could use Elma and then it gets destroyed by Gearfried. And you might think, okay, you've got a loop going, what's the loop's beneficial effect? Well, if you've got a monster like Royal Magical Library on the field, where every time you activate a spell card, it will gain 1 spell counter. For every 3 spell counters, you can draw a card. You can practically draw out your entire deck this way. Royal Magical Library, Gearfried the Iron Knight, Butterfly Dagger Elma. You play Elma, counter, The Royal Magical Library gains a counter, card gets destroyed because of Gear Freed. Play it again, you can now draw a card. And the Royal Magical Library can only max out at 3 spell counters, and you can then use the 3 spell counters to then draw a single card, ultimately turning it into a Jar of Greed every 3 activations, and even then it's faster than Jar of Greed, because Jar of Greed at the end of the day is a trap card that needs to be set in order for you to be able to draw that one single card. So there is that as well. So it's instant, rather not instant, but sort of continuous recycling ability can lead to all sorts of foul play that your opponent can't really do much about, and especially during a time in which there weren't many, if not any, hand traps. And I mean, even the first hand trap, which was Effect Veil, didn't come out until much later. So yeah, Elma is banned for a very good reason and likely unable to come back unless that it was eroded by removing that final statement in its effect. But yeah, those were the 5 cards that I kind of picked as being the most notable in the Dark Crisis pack. Let me know what you guys thought of my picks, or what do you think of these cards, and ultimately, you know, stuff about like why should Butterfly Dagger Elma actually be, you know, retrained and redone to be able to be allowed back, and just anything notable about these cards that I've mentioned. Stick them into the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.